Timcast IRL will be live in Miami with Patrick Bet David, Donald Trump Jr., Matt Gaetz, and Luke Rudkowski. Join us there. Get your tickets by clicking the link in the description below or by going to timcast.com. Brian Kemp declares a state of emergency in Georgia over inflation. Quote, all Bidenomics has done is take more money out of the pockets of the middle class, Kemp said. I don't get this guy's deal. It's like he hates Trump, but he hates Biden. What's he intending? What's his intended outcome here? Or it's simple enough to say the economy is fucked. Joe Biden's at fault and no one can deny it.
I think it's probably that he's well, actually, I don't know. When is he up for re-election? Is it next year?
I have no idea.
Because I think re-election could be a thing because if he is a Republican, even though he's not a MAGA Republican, if I understand correctly. And that being the case, if he is up for re-election next year, he doesn't want to risk being, opposed to the Republican nominee, Donald Trump. And it's probably a smart thing to do if you're a Republican.
He suspended their gas tax.
Really?
Yeah.
What about the roads?
He won in 2022, Brian Kemp. So does that mean he was a 4-year term?
I don't know. The economy is kind of shitty, and it's been shitty for some time, and it feels like it's just a bunch of paper stacked on top of paper. I'm wondering how the Democrats think they're going to win with ailing Joe Biden, with a fucked up economy, and it's not fucked up in the sense that like everyone can clearly see that the machine is broken. It's fucked up in like. It is a piece. It's like imagine a sheet with a bunch of holes punched through it, like someone hung up a sheet and then started shooting at it with a full auto rifle of some sort. And so we can clearly see this thing's full of holes, burned, singed, and will not function as a sheet. But some people are like, well, the area that I'm using seems to be okay. And that's the weird thing as we move forward in 2024. How do the Democrats expect to win if you've got a crippled economy and an ailing old man who can't remember where the fuck he is?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
My guess is the war. They'll use the Ukrainian war to try and be like, you can't change presidents during a war.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people typically say. I just don't quite know how well that's going to go because we're not at war. And I mean, that's sort of the thing when they make all the treason.
Not right now.
Yeah, true. But it's like when they make the whole treason comments in regards to anybody that opposes the war. It's like, I mean, that can't even work. We're not technically, combatants there, right?
Technically, no. Well, we're not.
Technically not.
Legally, I don't think so.
I mean, we are, but like technically.
Did you see the Ukrainian? I don't know if it was propaganda minister, but they're speaking in English. It's like their English translators saying that they will hunt down people that have made Russian, like pro-Russian propaganda on the internet. I don't know if they're saying like, hey, by the way, we're going to try and come kill Americans that have talked shit about Ukraine during this conflict.
Well, they got enough migrants and refugees to possibly make that happen, but.
There's a lot of people that are bummed out with people like Hinkle and like that other big monkey or big gorilla looking dude, the dude with the beard, the infrared guy. I don't know what his
infrared?
He's
I know the Maga Communist
sounds
guy.
like a badass.
Yeah, he's a Maga. He's the big dude with the big beard, the Maga Communist guy.
Oh, guy was here.
What?
The guy that was here? Or
No, the other guy.
Oh, okay.
The big dumb one.
I know you're talking
Big
about.
dumb one, Maga Communist.
The Maga Communist, big dumb.
What the hell is MAGA communism?
Yeah,
There
that's
are
exactly
people who are like somehow both a Trump supporter and a communist, which doesn't really make sense.
No,
and I think it's actually born of ignorance.
Yeah.
Like
Or a psyop.
Well, communists are dumb to begin with.
Yeah.
They are not. It is you almost. Communism is probably 3% intelligent individuals trying to manipulate a group of people for political power, and then 97% first order thinkers who have no idea what the fuck they're talking about or where food comes from.
True believers.
And so they just march in lockstep behind the priestesses and priests of their cult and just do as they're told.
And I got to imagine that the 3% are totally willing to turn on each other when they get power.
100%. Absolutely.
Like if you look at what Stalin did, he just murked. Do you think Stalin poisoned and killed Lenin?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know, and I don't really have a feeling
Lenin just
either way.
died.
They're both awful, so it's kind of
degraded.
Lenin just got sick and died all of a sudden, and then Stalin was like, "All right, I guess I'm in charge now."
I mean, I know he killed a lot of people that were behind him, like the people lower than him on the rungs. I don't know if he killed Lenin to get into his position, but like Khrushchev went and exposed all of Stalin's crimes. So I don't understand how people actually call themselves, Stalinists nowadays.
Yeah,
it's like,
crazy.
Look, like Khrushchev literally told the whole, like all of the Soviets, it was a late at night secret speech, it was called, and he went and he talked about the cult of personality and how Marx was like, he said that Marx had told them to not get involved in cult of personality stuff, and that's what made Stalin so powerful. Is people were actually kind of worshiping him, and he's slaughtering Russians all the time, killing Ukrainians, and Khrushchev admitted it. Khrushchev was like, this is what happened, and that was part of why the Soviet Union started to have some kind of opening up, and the actual, the murders and stuff started to end. It came to a close. It's because Stalin was no longer in power, and Khrushchev admitted what he did.
But still, bringing that back to George's economy, though, do you think, when it comes to Brian Kemp, do you think that he just expects the Republican Party to just be in a wreckage after they go after Trump, and for him and whatever this new breed of neocons to just basically pick up afterwards and, kind of status quo?
These people are insane.
Yeah.
Brian, like, Republicans have always been the underdogs relative to Democrats. There's two parties. Republicans are smaller. Republicans win when they would convince independents. That's it. But many of these people were already like Democrat-leaning individuals, and they had to pull really hard. If these people think they're going to muster up anything when Trump has built a better and bigger coalition,
right,
they're fucking out of their minds.
Well,
I hate these people.
Yeah, they've always been nuts. I mean, these were the same people that thought that if they just got rid of Saddam Hussein in Iraq, that all of a sudden they could put Iraqi exile Ahmed Chalabi in there, and everything would run as normal because apparently Shiites love Jordanian blood or some crazy stuff. Like, they've never understood, people, and, they've literally screwed up every opportunity they had to overtake the Democrats. So I don't know if they're planning this or they just suck at calibrating. I'm still not sure which one it is.
The Republican Party you're talking about?
Yes.
Well, it's not a monolith, I guess, but it aspects
neocons, actually, to be exact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm all for someone, starting their own thing. But I don't know, man. Party loyalty. When we start talking party loyalty, is when I start to get concerned.
But that's why that's what happened. It broke. Democrats are losing the younger generation. Republicans are losing the younger generation, and that's why you see leftist populists and right-wing populists. Now, I happen to think that the left-wing populists are mostly just first-order thinkers, like I said, relatively ignorant people who don't pay attention. And the challenge we're faced with is, you've got like anti-communist libertarian over here, Phil, who can tell you all about this stuff he's researched, why he feels the way he does. And then if Phil was to have an argument with one of these liberals, they're going to be like, nuh-uh. And it's like, okay, like there's no conversation to be had.
It happens. I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, we're actually in the middle. We're going through a cultural revolution. It's slower here in the U.S. than it was in China, but we're going through one here. And it's a lot like what happened in China. Constantly people are like, no, we're not. What are you talking about? You're crazy. Blah, blah, blah. All the while, out in California, the other day I retweeted something. One of the, again, it was an on the ground, like activist, organizer kind of person, straight up communist. We're communists. Like, there was no balking, no parsing words. We're communists, straight up. If you're going to go ahead and announce we're communists, you are an enemy of the country because you are an enemy of the principles that our country's founded on.
Go ahead. I was going to say how we got to the point where the 1964 Civil Rights Act exempts human rights to communists to the point where now people are waving communist flags. I'm not saying people of the communist persuasion should be denied human rights. I'm just saying that's a huge shift. We should at least be like, hey, it's not okay to be a communist. Like, you can believe that stuff. It's like, I'm not gonna stop you from eating at a restaurant because you're a communist, but we're not voting for you. We will criticize you and we will shun you.
Just like Nazis.
Yes.
They're just like Nazis.
Hammer, sickle, and swastika. It's like the same thing to me. They're just evil evil signals. Just get rid of them.
Absolutely. I could not agree any more than I do. Yeah. The idea that communists are somehow an acceptable or communism is somehow an acceptable type of organization for your society is ridiculous. You have to brainwash people. But you can't allow people to say, I don't want to, if you're in a communist society.
Right. But the problem is communism and Nazism, by just their core philosophy, those are end stage sort of, okay, we screwed up, guys, type movements. So the system has to be broken up, and it has to be to a point where one side can't govern in order for one to take hold. With Nazism, it was because, again, after
Weimar.
After Weimar Germany, after literally Churchill kept the blockade in place for 8 months, and they were starving, and they signed that horrible treaty. It was like everybody was pissed, and then Wilson wouldn't even let the militarists sign it, so they were pissed off. That's how they got Nazism. Whereas again with communism, it was the fact that Wilson went ahead and bribed the Kerensky and his revolutionary government to stay in the war long after they were well done with it. And they were going to say, hey, we'll end it as is. And they stayed in the war and basically ruined their whole economy. And then that's what led to Lenin. Both of these things are when the system breaks down, which is where they're trying to drive the United States to.
Yep. So they can be like the shining bastion or this big light of like all this truth and order and et cetera. And
they've got expiration dates.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, I was just reading about this Kerensky guy you mentioned, Alexander Kerensky, and he was the head of the provincial Russian government. There's a short-lived Russian republic.
Yeah.
So
that's
the
right.
empire, there was a
monarchy
revolt,
fell.
a republic formed for 3 months, and then that was overthrown by the Bolsheviks.
Yeah, it was
That was what that was what allowed the Bolsheviks in, because again he kept the war going. He took all of the it was like a $350 million loan from the United States. There was all these extra guns, boots, and weapons deals that were shipped there, and they were ready to end the World War I. If they would end World War I right there. Again, the Germans had already came to an agreement with the French. They were going to lay down their arms. They were going to say, okay, you know what? It is what it is. We're done. But instead, they kept it going. And then after the Germans laid down their arms, Winston Churchill kept the blockade in place, starved them, used it as leverage to drive them to sign a terrible treaty, and then split Germany up, which gave rise to Hitler. And Stalin came off the backs of Lenin.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so literally Wilson, he gave us the whole Nazis versus commies thing. That's how those ideologies
that's why they
came.
said the Bolsheviks. Like you literally hear the Nazis saying like we're anti-Bolshevikism.
I wonder if in 100 years they're going to be saying things like the United States was pressing their military lines in Europe up against the border of Russia. Russia kept saying, don't do this. It's a violation of the treaties we had in the past. Yeah. And then when Russia tried having a peace agreement, the West sent in one of their prime ministers to break that up, which eventually led to the assassination of diplomat so-and-so in Poland, which sparked a wave. And then Joe Biden declared war and,
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.